My sister-in-law hissed, "You married in, you get nothing," at Christmas dinner. She had no idea I was the executor of the will. December 25th, 2024, 6:47 in the evening. I was sitting at the far end of my dead father-in-law's dining table in the house on S. West Lombard Avenue in Beaverton, Oregon. The smell of overcooked green bean casserole and cinnamon candles was so thick it coated the back of your throat. 14 relatives packed into that dining room. Madison Whitfield was standing at the head of the table, index finger jabbing the air, telling every single one of them exactly how the estate was going to be divided. I had a manila folder flat under my left palm. I hadn't said a word in 40 minutes. I wasn't going to need more than 3. My name is Nathan Caldwell. I'm 41. I grew up in Gresham, Oregon. My dad drove a UPS route for 26 years. My mom worked the lunch line at Powell Valley Elementary. No inheritance, no connections, no safety net. I built my company, Caldwell Route Logic, from a one-bedroom apartment in 2014. Logistics optimization software. By 2024, the company was pulling $2.3 million in annual revenue out of a modest office on Southeast Division Street in Portland. I drive a 2019 Subaru Outback. I wear the same 3 flannels in rotation. Nothing about me screams money. That's on purpose. I married Elena Whitfield in June 2016. Small ceremony at Hoyt Arboretum. Elena is 38. She's a school counselor at Aloha High School in Beaverton. She is the best person I know, and I am not exaggerating. From the very first Thanksgiving I attended in 2015, her family made the hierarchy clear. I was furniture. Elena's mother Diane, 67, a retired Nordstrom floor manager, set my place at the kids' end of the table until I was 37 years old. Elena's older sister Madison, 44, a real estate agent with Keller Williams for 14 years, once introduced me to a client as Elena's roommate, I think, at a 4th of July barbecue in 2019. She laughed when she said it. Nobody corrected her. Richard Whitfield was different. Elena's father, retired HVAC technician, 31 years with Comfort Systems USA. A quiet man who respected quiet men. Starting around 2019, Richard began asking me for help with his finances, tax prep, budgeting, understanding his pension statements from the IBEW Local 48. I never charged him a dime. I drove to the Lombard Avenue house every other Sunday, brought coffee from Dutch Bros, and sat at the kitchen table with a laptop and a calculator. Richard would slide his paperwork across the table and say, "Make sense of this for me, Nate." Nobody else in that family called me Nate. In March 2021, I was reconciling Richard's Chase checking account, and I noticed a pattern. Recurring withdrawals. $300, $450, $600. 2 or 3 times a month, pulled from a secondary debit card Richard said he'd given Madison for emergencies only. I went back through 19 months of statements. The total was $14,200. I showed Richard. He went pale. Sat there for a long time staring at the screen. Then he said, "Don't tell Diane." I didn't. He revoked Madison's card access the following week and didn't say a word about it to anyone. 2 months later, May 2021, Richard visited estate attorney Gloria Fenn at Barger & Fenn LLP in downtown Portland and amended his will. He removed Madison as executor. He named me. I didn't ask for it. He never explained it to Elena or Madison. He just signed the document and locked the original in his filing cabinet in the basement of the Lombard Avenue house. For 3 years, nothing changed on the surface. Madison still ran family events like a campaign manager. Seating charts, group texts she controlled, decisions made before anyone else arrived. She managed the sale of Diane and Richard's rental duplex on Southwest 170th Avenue in 2022 and pocketed a $9,400 commission without ever disclosing the conflict of interest. She referred to the Lombard Avenue house as my inheritance at least twice in front of Elena. Once at Easter 2023, once at Richard's 71st birthday dinner that October. Richard's health declined through 2024. Prostate cancer diagnosed in January. He refused aggressive treatment. During one of our Sunday coffee sessions in September, he looked at me across the kitchen table and said, "Madison will try to take everything. Don't let her." I told him I wouldn't. On November 9th, 2024, Richard Whitfield passed away at Providence St. Vincent Medical Center in Portland. He was 72. Within 6 days of the funeral, Madison had changed the locks on the Lombard Avenue house, and I hadn't said a single word about the will. November 15th, 6 days after the funeral. Elena and I drove to the Lombard Avenue house to pick up a box of Richard's personal papers he'd promised us. Bank documents, pension statements, the stuff I'd been helping him organize for years. Elena walked up the front steps and tried her key. It didn't work. She pulled it out, looked at it, tried again. New deadbolt, brass, still had the installation sticker on it. Madison's white Lexus RX was in the driveway. The door opened, and there was Madison in yoga pants and a Keller Williams pullover, holding a tape measure. Behind her, I could see blue painter's tape on the living room walls. She was staging the house. Their father had been dead less than a week, and she was staging the house. "Oh," she said. She looked past Elena, directly at me. "We're handling things from here. Mom's staying with me. We'll let you know when we need you." Elena asked what happened to the locks. Madison called it a security decision she'd made with Diane. I didn't argue. But I noticed a stack of documents on the hallway credenza behind her. Richard's filing cabinet had been opened and emptied. The basement door was ajar. I knew exactly what had been in that cabinet, and I knew it didn't matter, because the copy that mattered was sitting in Gloria Fenn's office downtown. I drove Elena home. She didn't cry. She just stared out the window the whole ride down the Sunset Highway and said, "She's already decided, hasn't she?" I said yes. That night, I called Gloria Fenn at Barger and Fenn LLP and confirmed what I already knew. The amended will filed with the Multnomah County Circuit Court named me as sole executor. Gloria held the attorney's certified copy. Whatever Madison had pulled from that filing cabinet was the original, but the court filing superseded it. I asked Gloria to prepare the letters testamentary. She told me we could file with probate court after Thanksgiving. Then she said something I didn't expect. She said, "Let her talk, Nathan. The more she says, the easier this gets for you." So I waited. Christmas Day, December 25th, 2024. 14 people in the dining room on Lombard Avenue. Diane had cooked a ham. Madison had printed an agenda. An actual agenda on cardstock. It said, "Whitfield Estate, Family Plan," across the top in bold lettering. She'd placed one at every seat like a wedding program. I picked mine up, read it, and set it back down without a word. I put my manila folder on the table next to my water glass and tucked it halfway under my napkin. After the meal, Madison stood. She tapped a fork against her wine glass like she was giving a toast. "Okay, everyone. I know this isn't the most comfortable topic, but Dad would have wanted us to handle this like adults. I've spoken with Dale Eckhart. He's a probate attorney in Lake Oswego. He's agreed to represent the family in contesting the will." Elena set her fork down hard enough that it clinked on the plate. "Contesting? We haven't even seen the will, Madison." Which is exactly my point. No one has seen it. And Dad wasn't exactly in a clear state of mind his last 2 years. Dale thinks we have a strong case for undue influence. I felt Elena go still beside me. I picked up my water glass and took a slow drink. Then Madison turned to me. She leaned forward with both hands on the table and said, "Nathan, I want to be very clear about something. You married into this family. You are not a Whitfield. Whatever you think you're entitled to, you'll get nothing, not one drawer from this house." The room was dead quiet. A cousin coughed. Diane was staring at her plate. "Are you done?" I said. Madison's head pulled back an inch. "Excuse me?" "I asked if you were done, because when you are, I have something to share with the family." I stood up. I didn't raise my voice. I spoke the way I run quarterly reviews at my company. Measured, factual, no wasted words. I told the room I had a document I'd like everyone to see. But first, I wanted to ask Madison one question. Just one. I looked directly at her. "Do you know what an executor is?" She blinked. Two of the cousins shifted in their chairs. Diane whispered, "Nathan, please." Elena said nothing. She already knew. Gloria Fenn, estate attorney at Barger and Fenn LLP, 23 years practicing probate law in Multnomah County. She'd prepared the amended will in May 2021, witnessed Richard's signature alongside a notary, and filed the certified copy with the County Circuit Court. She'd been my legal anchor since November 15th, and she'd told me on December 20th to let Madison do exactly what Madison did tonight. I reached for the manila folder, pulled out the first page, slid it to the center of the table. It wasn't the will. It was a forensic accounting summary. 2 pages, itemized, prepared by Priya Desmond, CPA, 12 years at Whitford and Teal CPAs in Tigard, Oregon. Priya specializes in estate and elder financial abuse cases. I hired her on November 22nd, the day after I obtained letters testamentary from the Multnomah County Circuit Court. The room watched the pages slide across the table like they were watching something fall off a shelf in slow motion. Madison got to them first. She picked up the top sheet, and I watched her eyes move. 37 withdrawals from Richard's Chase checking account between August 2019 and March 2021. $14,200. All pulled from a secondary Visa debit card ending in 4481, issued to Madison Whitfield. ATM locations at the Beaverton Town Square Fred Meyer, the Cedar Hills Crossing Safeway, and a Chase branch on Southwest Canyon Road. Every single one cross-referenced against Richard's personal ledger. A spiral-bound notebook he kept in his nightstand. He'd logged every withdrawal he didn't authorize, dates and amounts in his own handwriting. There were also 3 Zelle transfers from Richard's account to Madison's personal Wells Fargo account, totaling $2,100. Initiated from Madison's phone, using shared login credentials Richard had given her for bill pay help. Total documented. $16,300 in unauthorized transfers. Madison read 3 lines, maybe 4. Then she threw the pages back onto the table so hard they fanned out across the wood. "This is fabricated," she said. Her voice was high and tight. "Dad gave me that card. He told me to use it. This is exactly the kind of manipulative garbage I expected from you, Nathan." Diane started crying. Quiet. The kind where your shoulders don't move, but the tears just come. 2 of the cousins excused themselves and disappeared into the kitchen. I could hear them whispering through the doorway. Madison's husband, Troy, 46, a territory sales manager for Cisco, put his hand on her shoulder and said, "Mads, sit down." She didn't. She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Dale right now. This is defamation. You're going to regret this." She dialed. Dale Eckhart didn't answer. It was Christmas evening. She left a voicemail with her voice shaking. "Dale, it's Madison. He has some kind of fake financial report. Call me back tonight." Then she turned to Diane, pointed at her own mother and said, "Mom, tell them. Tell them Dad gave me that card willingly." Diane didn't look up. She was gripping the edge of the table with both hands. And then she whispered something that changed the air in the room. "He told me, Madison. After. He told me what you did." It was the first time Diane had ever contradicted her oldest daughter in front of the family. I'd been coming to this house for 9 years, and I had never once heard Diane push back on Madison about anything. Not seating arrangements, not holiday plans, not real estate commissions, nothing. But she did it now. And Madison sat down hard, like someone had pulled the chair out and shoved it back under her at the same time. Troy refilled her wine glass. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of Richard's railroad clock on the mantel. I pulled out the second document, Richard's notarized affidavit, dated May 12, 2021, 4 days before the amended will, written in Richard's handwriting with his signature and Gloria Fenn's notary stamp at the bottom. One line was underlined. "I am removing Madison Ray Whitfield as executor because I no longer trust her to act in the family's interest." I set it face up on the table right next to Madison's printed cardstock agenda, the one that said, "Whitfield Estate, Family Plan." The two documents sat there side by side. One was what Madison wanted, the other was what Richard wanted. I sat back down. Same voice, same tone. I told the room what happens next. As executor, I am legally responsible for administering Richard's estate according to the will. The will leaves the Lombard Avenue house to Diane for her lifetime, with the remainder split equally between Elena and Madison. The $38,700 life insurance policy names Elena and Madison as equal beneficiaries. Richard's personal property is distributed per a handwritten addendum. Tools, the truck, the coin collection. But I also have a fiduciary duty. The forensic accounting report and Richard's affidavit document $16,300 in unauthorized withdrawals. Under Oregon's Elder Financial Abuse Statutes, ORS 124.110, Madison could face civil liability for treble damages. I told the room I had no intention of filing charges tonight, but the documentation has been preserved. Priya Desmond's full report, 22 pages, is already filed with Gloria Fenn's office. If Madison contests the will, this report becomes part of the court record. Public record. The kind that shows up when clients Google their real estate agent. I let that land. Priya had told me on December 18th, when she handed me the summary, "This isn't ambiguous, Nathan. These aren't shared expenses or gifts. The pattern is classic elder financial exploitation. Small amounts, high frequency, no authorization trail." The full report was sitting in a fireproof lockbox in my home office. I only brought the 2-page summary to dinner. I didn't need all 22 pages. I just needed enough to tell the truth. Madison pushed back from the table. She grabbed her coat off the back of the chair and said, "You haven't heard the last of this." But Troy didn't stand up. The dining room emptied fast after Madison left. 14 people became 6. Me, Elena, Diane, Troy, and 2 of Richard's siblings, Uncle Gary and Aunt Linda, who'd driven up from Salem that morning. I could see Madison through the front window. She was sitting in her Lexus in the driveway with the engine running, phone pressed to her ear, breath fogging the glass. Troy was still at the table. He hadn't moved. He was staring at the forensic summary like he was reading it for the 3rd time. Then he looked up at me. "How long have you known about the card?" "Since March 2021. Richard asked me not to say anything. I honored that." "And the executor thing?" "May 2021, same month as the affidavit." Troy rubbed his face with both hands, held them there for a long time. Then he dropped them and said, "She told me Dad owed her money. For taking care of the house, for driving him to appointments. She said it was reimbursement." Elena leaned forward. Troy, she was taking cash from ATMs. There are no receipts because there was nothing to reimburse. He didn't argue. He just nodded once and stared at the table. Diane spoke for the second time all evening. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but every person in that room heard it. He wanted to call the police. I talked him out of it. I told him it would destroy the family. She stopped, pressed her lips together. I think it destroyed him instead. Nobody answered that. There was nothing to answer it with. I reached into the manila folder one last time. I placed a single item in the center of the table. Richard's spiral-bound notebook, blue cover, dog-eared, his personal ledger. Every page filled with his handwriting, dates, amounts, and next to each unauthorized withdrawal, one word Richard wrote every single time. Madison. Uncle Gary picked it up, flipped through 3 pages slowly, set it back down without a word. Aunt Linda put her arm around Diane and held her. The manila folder was empty. I closed it. January 8th, 2025. Dale Eckhart, the probate attorney Madison had retained, withdrew from the case. He'd reviewed the forensic report and Richard's affidavit. He sent Madison a 1-paragraph letter. The will contest had no viable basis. Proceeding would expose her to counterclaims. 1 paragraph. That was all it took. January 22nd, the Multnomah County Circuit Court formally appointed me as executor. No objections filed. Not one. February 2025. Madison's Keller Williams team lead initiated an internal ethics review after a family member who worked in the same Lake Oswego office mentioned the elder financial abuse documentation. Madison was placed on a performance improvement plan. She lost her 2 largest listing clients. 14 years at that company, and it started unraveling in a single quarter. March 2025. I distributed the $38,700 life insurance policy equally to Elena and Madison, exactly as the will specified. I didn't withhold a cent. I didn't adjust for the $16,300 Madison took from her father. I administered that estate by the book, because that's what Richard asked me to do. Diane stayed in the Lombard Avenue house. I arranged a lawn service and paid the property taxes from estate funds. April 2025. Madison called Elena. Not me. Elena. She'd been drinking. She said she was sorry, but not for the money. She was sorry it all came out the way it did. She asked if I would consider leaving the forensic report out of things if she signed a waiver agreeing not to contest. Elena told her the will was already through probate. There was nothing left to contest. Madison asked, "Does he hate me?" Elena said, "He doesn't think about you, Madison. He just did what Dad asked." Madison hung up. She didn't call again. November 2025, a Sunday morning. I pulled into the driveway on Southwest Lombard Avenue with 2 Dutch Bros coffees in the cup holder. Oat milk lavender latte for Diane, black Americano for me. I let myself in with the key Diane gave me in February. She was at the kitchen table with the crossword from the Oregonian, wearing one of Richard's old flannel shirts. We sat where Richard and I used to sit. Same table, same calculator on the counter, even though I do everything on my laptop now. Diane slid the crossword toward me. 7 across. One who carries out a will. 8 letters. I filled it in without looking up. Executor. Diane patted my hand. Richard always said you were the only one who listened. I never wanted to be the one holding that folder at Christmas dinner. I never wanted to know what Madison did with that debit card, or sit across from a woman crying over her dead husband while her oldest daughter screamed about inheritance in the driveway. But Richard trusted me with the truth, and the truth doesn't care about holidays. Sometimes, the quietest person at the table is the one holding all the cards and the receipts.